Control to stage crew. Kalen's off pattern. Do you see this?
Stand by! Stand by! He's refusing the cue!
Emergency protocol now. He's got Marina. Shut it down.
The frantic call echoes as the camera cuts to the packed stands of OceanWorld Park in Orlando, Florida. What began as a cheerful afternoon show instantly descends into chaos. The upbeat music halts mid-note. A collective gasp erupts from the crowd. Children scream, parents scramble to shield their eyes, and lifeguards sprint toward the edge of the massive pool. In the water, the surface churns violently. At first, many believe it's just part of the act, another daring dive. Another scripted stunt between trainer and Orca, but within seconds, the laughter fades, the water begins to darken, the shape of the massive whale circling beneath, dragging its trainer deeper and deeper. From the stands, horrified spectators shout in disbelief. Some clutch their phones, trying to capture what they think is still a performance. Others realize, too late, that this is no show, this is real. The silence that follows is deafening, broken only by the desperate cries of those closest to the front row. This is not entertainment. This is tragedy, unfolding in real time. These were the horrifying last moments of Jessica Radcliffe. Stay with us until the end, because the most shocking truths have yet to be revealed. Jessica Radcliffe was born in California, in a small coastal town where the ocean was never more than a few steps away. As a child, she spent countless hours on the beach, collecting seashells, watching dolphins crest the waves, and dreaming of a life beneath the water's surface. Her parents often said that Jessica was part fish, a girl who seemed more at home in the sea than on land. By the age of 10, she was already an accomplished swimmer, competing in local meets and earning a reputation for her stamina and grace in the water. Coaches praised her discipline, but what stood out most was her love for the ocean itself. For Jessica, swimming was never just about winning medals, it was about connection, a bond with the vast and mysterious world beneath the waves. As she grew older, that passion turned into purpose. While her peers chased scholarships and conventional careers, Jessica pursued marine biology classes and volunteered at local aquariums. She spoke often about her dream to work with orcas, the apex predators she saw not as killers but as intelligent, emotional beings deserving of respect. By her early 20s, she had joined OceanWorld Park in Orlando, starting at the bottom cleaning tanks, assisting with feeding routines, shadowing senior trainers. Her dedication quickly set her apart. Within a few short years, she rose to the role of lead trainer, commanding the stage with a mix of confidence and compassion. Colleagues described her as someone who never treated the animals like tools for entertainment, she treated them like family. Jessica's relationship with Kronos, the massive male orca that would one day end her life, became the centerpiece of her career. She believed she had a special understanding with him. In interviews, she often said, "When I swim with Kronos, I feel like I'm communicating without words. He knows me, and I know him." To audiences, that bond looked magical, an almost mystical partnership between human and beast. But beneath the awe and applause, Jessica's life was more than spectacle. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend. At 32, she still called her mother every Sunday. She still returned to her hometown whenever she could. Walking the same beaches where her love for the ocean began, she carried herself with warmth, humility, and a smile that children in the stands remembered long after the shows ended. Her story was one of devotion to the sea, to her dream, and to the creatures she believed she was born to work beside. That devotion would also become the reason her final moments struck so deeply. She wasn't just a trainer, she was someone who gave her life to the animals she loved. And in the end, it was that very love that placed her in harm's way. Kronos was no ordinary killer whale, measuring more than 23 feet in length, 7.1 meters of raw muscle and power. He had been captured off the cold, stormy coast of Iceland when he was only 2 years old. Torn from his family pod, he was loaded into a transport tank, shipped thousands of miles away, and thrust into a world that bore no resemblance to the wild ocean he once called home. At OceanWorld, Kronos quickly became a prized asset. His size was imposing, his dorsal fin tall and straight, his black and white markings flawless. To the public, he was magnificent, a living spectacle. Trainers and executives alike labeled him the park's crown jewel, the star who could fill stadium seats. But behind the polished image was an animal that never truly adapted to captivity. From the beginning, Kronos displayed troubling signs. He often refused to perform, lingering motionless at the bottom of the pool for hours. He lashed out during feeding, snapping at metal gates, sometimes striking the tank walls with violent force. On more than one occasion, he clamped down on the hands or arms of staff members, never causing fatal injuries, but enough to send shivers through the ranks of trainers. To outsiders, these were dismissed as minor incidents, brushed aside as the unpredictability of a wild animal, but those who worked closest with him knew better. Kronos was restless, unpredictable, and dangerously intelligent. Decades of scientific research have shown what captivity does to orcas: the boredom, the confinement, the endless circle of swimming in tanks far smaller than their natural range. For Kronos, these stresses seemed to boil just beneath the surface. Still, he became the centerpiece of OceanWorld's daily performances. Trainers built entire routines around him: breaches, tail slaps, synchronized spins. Audiences roared with applause, never suspecting the storm that brewed inside the massive predator before them. Jessica Radcliffe, perhaps more than anyone else, believed she had broken through to him. She insisted that Kronos was misunderstood, that with patience and respect, he could be trusted. And for years, it seemed she was right. Their performances drew standing ovations. Children left the stadium clutching plush orca toys, inspired by what looked like a friendship between woman and whale. But behind the curtain, Kronos was still the wild creature who had once roamed the open sea. Each day in captivity tightened the invisible chain around him, building a pressure that no amount of applause could ease. He was both star performer and prisoner, both marvel and menace. And in the end, Kronos would remind the world that even in chains, nature cannot be controlled forever. If you believe Kronos' tragic fate deserves to be heard, press like so more people will know the truth behind the show. It was the afternoon of August 3rd, 2025. The stadium at OceanWorld Park in Orlando was packed, every seat filled. Families gathered under the bright Florida sun, waiting for the grand finale. On stage stood Jessica Radcliffe, radiant in her wetsuit, waving to the crowd. At her side was Kronos, the giant male orca, circling the pool with effortless grace. The music swelled, drums pounding, as Jessica raised her arm for the final sequence. Kronos surged forward, launching into a towering breach that sent water cascading over the front rows. The audience erupted in cheers. It was the moment they had all been waiting for, the spectacle of human and whale, side by side in perfect harmony. But then, something shifted. As Jessica moved closer to the edge, Kronos turned abruptly. With startling speed, he lunged upward, clamping onto her arm. Gasps swept through the stadium. At first, many believed it was part of the act, a daring stunt, perhaps even rehearsed. Jessica struggled, kicking against the water as Kronos pulled her beneath the surface. The crowd laughed nervously, applauding, unsure of what they were witnessing. Seconds stretched into eternity. The water churned violently, frothing white as Jessica fought to resurface. She broke through once, gasping for air, shouting in panic. This time, there was no mistaking it. This was no performance. This was real. Screams erupted from the stands. Parents grabbed their children, ushering them away from the glass. Phones shot into the air, some recording, others trembling too hard to focus. Trainers on the sidelines rushed forward, throwing flotation devices into the pool, slamming metal bars against the side in desperate attempts to distract Kronos. Nothing worked. The massive whale dragged Jessica down again, deeper this time. A ripple of horror spread as the water began to darken. The once cheerful music had long stopped. Now the only sounds were frantic cries, the pounding of feet as guests tried to flee, and the haunting silence between each scream. For over 5 minutes, the struggle continued. Jessica surfaced only briefly, her arms flailing, her face pale with terror before Kronos pulled her under again. Trainers dove into the water, but the orca's strength was overwhelming. Every attempt to intervene was met with failure. Then, a chilling stillness. The pool grew calm. Kronos circled slowly, almost deliberately, his massive body gliding just below the surface. Jessica did not reappear. The audience sat frozen, some sobbing, others staring in disbelief. What they had just witnessed was not the magic of OceanWorld. It was a nightmare that would haunt them forever. Jessica Radcliffe was gone. Comment amen below to honor Jessica's memory. News broke within minutes. Headlines blared across the world. Trainer killed by killer whale at OceanWorld. Clips captured on shaky cell phones spread like wildfire online, flooding social media feeds before the park even issued its first statement. The image of Kronos circling the pool as horrified spectators screamed became an unforgettable symbol of the tragedy. OceanWorld executives moved quickly, calling the incident a rare and unforeseeable accident. In carefully worded press releases, they emphasized Jessica's lifelong passion and reassured the public that safety had always been the park's top priority. But within days, troubling details began to surface. Former trainers came forward with stories of Kronos' violent outbursts, accounts that had been ignored or buried. Confidential reports revealed a history of aggression, hidden from both the public and the media. Jessica's family refused to stay silent, standing before reporters. Her mother's voice broke as she demanded justice. They knew he was dangerous. They knew, and they let her swim with him anyway. A lawsuit was filed against OceanWorld, accusing the park of negligence and deception. The public's response was swift and furious. Vigils were held outside OceanWorld's gates. Protesters carried signs reading "Justice for Jessica" and "Free the Orcas." Online, hashtags surged to the top of trending lists: #Justice for Jessica, #Free the Orcas, #End Captivity. The tragedy reignited global debates about the ethics of keeping intelligent predators in captivity for entertainment. International news outlets picked up the story, broadcasting footage of the attack alongside interviews with marine biologists, animal rights activists, and grieving former colleagues. For many, Jessica's death was not just another workplace accident, it was a symbol of something far larger: the price of spectacle, paid in human and animal lives. OceanWorld's reputation began to crumble. Attendance plummeted, sponsors withdrew, and pressure mounted from lawmakers demanding stricter regulations or even outright bans on marine mammal performances. What was once a place of laughter and applause now stood at the center of a firestorm. For Jessica's family, the loss was unbearable. For the public, the anger was unrelenting. And for Kronos, the orca who had once been celebrated as a star, his name would forever be tied to a tragedy that shocked the world. Jessica Radcliffe's death was more than a personal tragedy. It was a moment that forced the world to confront an uncomfortable truth. For decades, orcas have been marketed as friendly giants, turned into performers for cheering crowds. But behind every flip, every splash, and every choreographed routine lies a creature born to roam oceans, confined instead to a concrete tank. The question is unavoidable. Was this truly an accident, or was it the inevitable consequence of trying to control nature for profit? Marine biologists point out that in the wild, orcas can travel up to 100 miles in a single day, living in tightly bonded family pods. In captivity, they circle endlessly in pools a fraction of that size. Cut off from their natural way of life, stress builds, frustration grows, and sometimes the results are deadly. Jessica believed in her bond with Kronos. She believed her love and dedication could bridge the gap between freedom and captivity. But her final moments showed us that even the strongest human devotion cannot erase the instincts of a predator, nor the psychological toll of confinement. Her story leaves us with a haunting choice. Will we continue to treat these intelligent beings as tools of entertainment, risking both human and animal lives, or will we finally recognize that their freedom is worth more than our applause? Jessica's death was not only a warning, it was a question that demands an answer from all of us. If you believe her story and Kronos' story should never be forgotten, then let your voice be heard. Like this video, share it, and most importantly, subscribe so that the truth behind these tragedies continues to reach the world. Because only when enough people care will change finally come.